Hey guys, you're watching PhoneArena, and today we have a special preview here on the Nokia E7. We have a prototype unit here, and we're just going to give you a quick preview of this device, what to expect, and just give you some of our initial impressions about this device. We first got the opportunity of checking out the E7 back in Nokia world briefly, but now we have a little bit more time. We'll just go in depth a little bit more about this business class device. From far away, the Nokia E7 has some similarities with the Nokia N8 with its anodized aluminum chassis. You definitely get a sense that it's made out of premium materials. It's actually a little bit longer and wider than the Nokia N8, but surprisingly, it is very streamlined, pretty thin. It measures in at 0.54 inches versus the half an inch thickness of the Nokia N8, and you got to consider the fact that this packs on a physical keyboard as well, so that's a very nice, sleek looking device. You do notice the weight just because of the choice of material. It's a little bit heavier than most hands, but it's not too overbearing. We definitely like the feel of the device, and overall it just shows you that Nokia has some great looking handsets out there, and this is definitely a clear contender in that space. There's no denying that we're happy to see that Nokia decided to use an Amoled panel with this device. It definitely is one of the big standouts with the handset. It actually measures in at 4 inches in size, so it's a lot of room for your fingers. On top of it, has a resolution of a NHD, which is actually 360 by 640 pixels. So even though it might not contend in the same space as a device that's offering WVGA resolution, it's still more than legible in this handset. And you can tell real quick, even on the main screen here, the home screen, you can make out all the text. When you get to the main menu, it's still a little bit smaller, but still more than distinguishable. The great thing about the AMOLED panel, of course, you get the deep-looking colors. A little bit of hint of bluishness to it that we notice, but the colors are definitely a lot more vibrant than other panels out there, and especially the deep blacks. You notice that instantly. The other thing about the handset is that it does attract a lot of fingerprints from our usage so far, and it's very difficult to actually remove them. You got to really get a cloth to actually get it, but it gets dirty very easily. And on top of that, we did notice some responsiveness issues. It wasn't as accurate as we would like, and you definitely have to hold your finger steady to get for it to register your touch. And as far as viewing angles, it looks like it's pretty decent. Naturally an extreme angle, so it's going to kind of phase out, but for the most part, it's definitely a clear standout for this handset, and we're very happy to see that they've used an AMOLED panel. Below the touchscreen, you have the home button, which is raised from the surface, and it's very distinguishable to the finger, but unfortunately, though, it is rather difficult to push down. You don't have a good response. It also acts as the notification, so it'll light up if you get a message or even a phone call. On the left edge of the phone, you have the unlock switch right here. It's very easy to press out and offers a really nice grip. Well, on the right side, you have quite a few different stuff here. You have the shutter key. It's a little bit recessed and kind of difficult to push down as well. You have the volume rocker here, and you have the SIM card slot. In the top side of the phone, you have the 3.5mm headset jack. You have a dedicated power button. Even though it is flush to the surface, it is large enough to make out with the finger. We didn't have too much of a problem. And beneath this flap here, you have quite a few different ports. You have the micro USB port for charging and connecting to computer, and you also have an HDMI port as well. And finally, we have the 8-megapixel camera on the back. It's a fixed focus one, not an autofocus, dual LED flash. And on the front, you have a front-facing camera, and on top left here are the proximity and light sensors. At first try, we had some difficulty in actually getting the keyboard exposed. You got to do like some sort of a diagonal mechanism. Instead of a simple swipe up, you got to push into the handset, and it snaps the handset open. It is very snappy, as you could tell here. Once you get a hang for the mechanism, it's quite easy to open up. We feel like it's very solid, even though at times you could kind of get it to an open position like that, but it'll definitely snap into place, and it feels like it's solid all around. Now the keyboard itself, as you can tell, it tilts the display at an angle. It's supported by this flap right here, and also down the back right there. But as far as the buttons on the keyboard, they're all evenly sized, kind of chiclet keys. We do like the feel of them, even though they're not as raised as we would like, but still you have a good feel for them when you're touching it. And they do offer a really nice response, surprisingly, when you push down on them. Pretty good backlighting as well. You have a directional pad here on the bottom right to give you another option for navigating about the handset. And overall, we did find the keyboard on the E7 to be quite usable. As I mentioned already, the Nokia E7 is running Symbian 3, just like what we saw on the Nokia N8, and it actually shares the same processor. It has the ARM11 processor, which is clocked at 680 megahertz, shares the same amount of RAM at 256 megabytes, but the E7 jumps in ROM. It has a 1 gigabytes of RAM versus the 512 on the N8. And for the most part, though, navigating about the platform, thanks to the processor, it's fairly quick and responsive. We didn't have any issues. You could open up multiple applications. You could jump back between the home screen. And even stuff like kinetic scrolling is fairly smooth. We had no problems as far as speed, and we're happy with the overall responsiveness of the handset. But as we mentioned already before, the touchscreen can be a little bit finicky at times, so it could be something just with the prototype unit that we're checking out here, and hopefully that'll get fixed with the final version. In terms of personalization, there's going to be a little bit more with Symbian 3 versus previous iterations of Symbian. We have the home screen here. There's a bunch of different widgets that you could place on there. When you go to the options here, you could edit the content, and you could either rearrange the widgets to your liking. You could even add additional ones if you wanted to. But unfortunately, though, there's no option to actually get more than one home screen, because with Symbian 3, you're allowed up to 3, but unfortunately, it could be something with our prototype unit here. But we're only given one option here, but still a little bit more personalization than previous versions of Symbian. When you go to the main menu, it's laid out in typical grid-like fashion, and you have kinetic scrolling, as we mentioned. Very easy to press icons, and it'll take some time getting adjusted to it, but afterwards, you kind of get a feel of moving about the platform. And even though you'll find the best typing experience by using the physical keyboard, there are some on-screen options at your disposal. You have the numeric keypad here, which is its traditional layout. It is a little bit more of a process typing up stuff, but you can enable predictive text to have a little bit faster experience. When you tilt it to landscape, you'll be presented with the full keyboard layout. It is fairly responsive, and speed typing shouldn't be too much of a problem with people. But as we said already, definitely by far better using the physical keyboard. The Symbian browser has come far from the early days, and for right now it does a decent job, not the best, nothing on par with the iPhone or Android browsers out there. You have stuff like multi-touch gesture support, so you can zoom in, zoom out, and on top of that, the device that we have here is actually running off of T-Mobile's 3G network, and loaded pages in probably under a minute and a half fully. And as you can tell, our page here is completely loaded. There is some slowdown lag noticeable with it, just because there are some flash content. It has support for flashlight. It does seem a little bit jerky, not the smoothest experience, but when there isn't that much flash content, it does move at a decent rate. You could double tap to zoom into a specific area, and as you could tell, it'll do its best to rearrange the text here to fit the display. For the most part, it does take a little bit of time to re-render stuff on the fly, but it's still more than a decent experience for most people out there. The music player is exactly like the one we saw on the N8. It'll display all your songs by artists here. When you select an album, it's going to give you like this 3D carousel on top here. You can move about all the different albums by the artist. And once you find a specific one, you could play a song. And from there, it's just going to display the usual set of items. The album cover, the track information, even the on-screen controls. When you tilt it to landscape, it does the same exact thing. As far as the audio quality from the speaker, which is on the bottom right here, it is a little bit neutral, not the strongest, it's not even the weakest out there, but just right there in the middle. Not as vibrant as we would like, but there are some equalizer settings that you could choose from so that it has a little bit better sound to it, but still doesn't offer enough power to our tastes. And finally, there is an option here for an FM transmitter, so it has it built in, so you could automatically output the songs to a car stereo or something. Thanks to its gorgeous looking AMOLED panel and the large size of the display, it makes it a conducive device to watch videos. The one we have here is encoded in MPEG-4, 1280 by 720 resolution, so there's plenty of details with it. On top of that, it moves at a nice frame rate, very smooth, no choppiness whatsoever in playback. And overall, thanks to its large size and deep looking colors, it makes for the perfect experience to watch any videos. When it comes to taking photos, we're not that pleased yet with the quality offered by the E7 and its 8 megapixel camera. It just goes to show that the N8 is still the king of the hill in this category. But the layout's similar. You have pretty much an uncluttered interface here. You just primarily focus on what you're trying to shoot. There are some icons to the right-hand side for video. You have one for the focus and even additional options or scene modes you could choose from. But as far as taking photos, you have to use the shutter key, which is surprising they didn't have an on-screen one, just because it's a fixed focus camera. It's not an autofocus one. So as far as quality, outdoors, they're not necessarily the best. We just noticed that it's more than underexposed. And on top of that, they're not as sharp as we would have liked it to be, just because it's a fixed focus camera. Indoors, though, in low lightings, there's a lot of noise, and you do notice that the color production is extremely bland looking. And even with the aid of the LED flash, it doesn't really do a great job. For close-up images, it tends to make it look overexposed, while further away, it really doesn't matter. So we're kind of disappointed with the camera quality of the E7, but then again, it's more of a business-oriented handset versus the N8, which is geared towards photographs. Somewhat a surprise, the E7 has the ability to shoot in 720p, so it has a nice frame rate to it. Not as jerky, but it's still tolerable to look at. But as far as quality, though, it is very slim on details. You notice that it's going to be a little bit more fuzzy than anything else. Again, being a fixed focus camera versus an autofocus. You'll get the job done, but just don't expect the best looking videos out there. With the prototype, we're actually happy with the call quality it has to offer, and we're using T-Mobile service. Both ends of the line, voices were clear and distinct, no evidence of any background noise or distortion, so it's very easy to hear conversations. We did notice, however, that the earpiece itself didn't offer the strongest tones out there, a little bit more on the weak side, so we had to place in the loudest volume setting and close to our ear just to hear anything. Now, when you use the speakerphone, the same thing applies. It's just a little bit weak. And when you're using it around in noisy environments, it does become to be a little bit more of a problem than anything else. But luckily, if you're in a quiet area, you'll be able to hear your callers with no problems. So far from what we experience using this prototype is the fact that it's definitely geared towards the business class user as opposed to someone that's more media centric. Granted, though, it does offer a nice large size display, the AMOLED panel. So watching video is still nice, but when in terms of taking photos or videos, not necessarily the best thing out there. And you'll probably want to stay with the N8, but hopefully it might get improved with the final unit. We did notice some other, some bugs with the platform, opening up different applications. And the touchscreen wasn't the most accurate or responsive as we would have liked it, but again, that's just because it's a prototype and not the final unit. But overall, it's a nice looking handset. We're very impressed with the overall build quality with this device. You definitely get a sense that Nokia knows how to build some quality looking handsets, and it's made from premium materials. We like the keyboard too, definitely usable, very distinctive out there versus what's found on the market, and for the most part, it is a nice handset, and we're looking forward to see what the final unit has to offer. So if you want to learn more about the Nokia E7, you can check out our in-depth preview on the handset at our website, PhoneArena.com.